Representing Ukanafun, Urogonam Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as moved by the leader. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's it. Clerk is invited to read long title for the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to establish the Vigilante Group of Nigeria charged with responsibilities to, among others, provide community policing, maintenance of law and order and community service for Nigerians, and for related matters. Third reading.
Bill read the third time and passed. Respectfully, the fifth order of the day is the third reading of Bill for an Act to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Education, Kontagora, and for related matters standing in the name of the House Leader. Honorable members will recall that the House adopted the report of the Committee of the Whole on the bill on Wednesday, 1st December 2021. I therefore call on the Leader to read, to move the motion that the bill be read the third time.
The third or second, sir? Okay. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members. I rise to move that a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of National College of Education, Basimbiri, Bayelsa State. Number 5. Okay. I have taken that one.
Kontagora.
I have taken it. I took it, sir. Unless we will repeat it.
Is Kontagora, sir?
I'm on Oka. Is what we have taken now. Okay, well, let me take it again. No problem. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Sorry for the mix-up. Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, I rise to move that a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Education, Kontagora, and for related matters, HB 1136, standing in my name, be read the third time. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I so move.
Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My distinguished colleague, I am Comrade Peter Ohiozoje Akwatasin, MNI. I represent the people of Akoko Edo Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as ably moved by the Leader of the House. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's it. Clerk is invited to read long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to provide for establishment of Federal University of Education, Kontagora, and for related matters. Third reading.
Read the third time and pass. The sixth order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of National College of Education, Basimbiri, Bayelsa State, and for related matters standing in the name of the House Leader. All members will recall the bill was transmitted from the Senate, seeking concurrence of the House, and read the first time on Wednesday, 24 November 2021. I now move that I now invite the House Leader to move that the bill be read second time.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, my respected colleagues. Honorable Ado Dogwa is my name. Once again, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I represent the people of Dogwa, Chudunwada Federal Constituency in Kano State. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I rise to move that a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of National College of Education, Basimbiri, in Bayelsa State, and for related matters, a Senate bill standing in my name here on the floor of the House be taken the second time. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I so move. Honorable Fred, I hope I have I've taken the name of your village correctly. Is it Basambiri or Basambiri?
Deputy Leader.
Mr. Speaker and my dear colleagues, I second the motion for the second reading of Federal College of Education, Basambiri. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's it. Clerks is invited to do long title of no, sorry. The long title of the bill. Sorry.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to provide for establishment of National College of Education, Basambiri, Bayelsa State, and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee of the Whole. Respected colleagues, the seventh order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to amend the Bank Employees Declaration of Assets Act Cap B1 Laws Federation Nigeria 2004 and for related matters, standing in the name of Honorable Francis Wavy. All members who recall the bill was read the first time on Tuesday, 15 December 2020, and now invite Honorable Wavy to move that the bill be read the second time.
Mr. Speaker, it seems Honorable Webb is not on the floor. I move that second reading of the bill be stepped down by the leader of the House. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Second reading of the bill stepped down by the leader of the House. Respected colleagues, the eighth order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal College of Agriculture, TAPA, and related matters standing in the name of Honorable Ajibola Morano. Honorable members will recall the bill was read the first time on Tuesday, 25th July 2019. I now invite Honorable Morano to move that the bill be read the second time.
Thank you very much, our Right Honorable Speaker, my honorable colleagues. I am Honorable Dr. Ajibola Muraina. I represent Barapa Central, Barapa North Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, I am from Oyo State. Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, I rise to move, pursuant to Order 12, Rule 4, of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives, to seek the leave of this honorable House for an act to establish the Federal College of Agriculture, TAPA, and for related matters to be read a second time. I so move.
Seconder, Honorable
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, Agbedi Yetimene Frederick is my name. I represent Sabama Ikrimo Federal Constituency. I'm from Bayelsa State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise to second the bill for the establishment of Federal College of Agriculture, TAPA, moved by Honorable Dr. Morano. I so second.
Respected colleagues, I believe this is a very straightforward bill. With the leave of the House, I want to put the question. Those in favor that the bill be read second time say aye. Against say nay. That's it. Clerks is invited to look at for the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to provide for establishment of Federal College of Agriculture, TAPA, and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee on Agriculture, Colleges and Institutions. The ninth order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to establish a national agency for the production, management, and control of Sugarcane, Makarfi, Kaduna State, and for related matters standing in the Honorable Mukhtar Shehul Adan. All members would recall that the bill was read the first time on Tuesday, June 2021, and now invite Honorable Adan to move that the bill read the second time. Honorable Adan is not on the floor. Chairman rules.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since Honorable Laden is not on the floor, I move that the second reading of the bill be stepped down by the leave of the House. Also move, Mr. Speaker.
Second reading of the bill stepped down by the leave of the House. Respected colleagues, the 10th order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Nigerian Police Intelligence Institute, share, and for related matters standing in the standing in the name of Honorable Abdurrahim Olajide, Honorable Ayemi Lawrence. All members would recall that the bill was read the first time on Tuesday, 9 November 2021. Now invite Honorable Olajide to move that the bill read the second time.
Thank you very much. The Speaker, my name is Jima Abdurrahim Olajide. I represent Lagos Mainland, Federal Constituency, Lagos State. I stand to move the motion under Order 12, Group 4 of the House that a bill of Nigeria Police Intelligence Institute shall read and for related matters be read for second time. So it's
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Mukhtar Egberongbe. I represent the Apapa Federal Constituency. I'm from Lagos State. I stand to second the bill as ably moved by my leader. I so second.
Add more light on the bill.
Places, sir. As the House places. Thank you.
Those in favor that the bill is the second time say aye. Against say nay. That's have it. Clerks is invited to read the long title for the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to provide for establishment of Nigerian Police Intelligence Institute shall read for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee on Police Affairs. The Speaker, the 11th order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to make provision for the establishment of Youth Entrepreneurship Development Trust Fund and a management team to administer the funds and for related matters standing in the Honorable Farah Dagogo. All members will recall that the bill was read the first time on Wednesday, 7 July 2021. Now I invite Honorable Dagogo to move that the bill be read the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues. Mr. Speaker, my name is Dagogo Dr. Farah. I represent Degema Bonny Federal Conference from River State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move for a bill for an act to make provision for establishment of Youth Entrepreneurship Development Trust Fund and a management team to administer the funds and for related matters. Mr. Speaker, I now move for the bill to be read the second time. I so move. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleague. Mr. Speaker, Zonkame, I'm from Delta State. I rise to second the motion ably moved by my colleague, Honorable Farah Dagogo. I say second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to make provision for establishment of Youth Entrepreneurship Development Trust Fund and the management team to administer the fund and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee on Youth Development.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I wish to withdraw, to step down, move that I want to step down the second reading of this, of bill number 12, because it seems to be conflicting with another bill that has been read a second time. We'll do further consultation and then report back to the House. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Bitrus, I want to sincerely apologize to you. We're not going to take this bill today. The rules of business will have to make some certain clarification. If the event is okay, we'll take it tomorrow. Thank you. Bill step down by the leave of the House. Oh, you joined them. You joined it. Just do. The special colleague, the 13th order of the day is a motion on need to reopen the National Youth Service Corps NYSC permanent orientation camp Maiduguri, standing in the name of Honorable Usman Zanna. Honorable Zanna is invited to put the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my respected colleagues. I'm Honorable Usman Zanna, representing the people of Kagao, Gubioma, Gumeri Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Borno State. My motion is on the need to reopen the National Youth Service Corps permanent orientation camp in Borno State. The House notes that for over 10 years, the National Youth Service permanent orientation camp was shut down following the killings by Boko Haram terrorists in Borno State. Also note that the past Director General, Mr. Suleiman Kazaure, at that time, reiterated that the camp will be reopened as soon as the internal displaced persons were relocated from the premises and peace has returned to the state. Also aware that Borno State has relocated all the internally displaced persons, over 8,000 of them, taking refuge in the orientation camp house provided by the government at Auno and other relocated to other local government areas of the state. Also informed that the governor of Borno State no avail. Also informed that Borno State government has made adequate arrangements to ensure safety of the well-being of corpers posted to the states. Worried that the corps members posted to Borno State would have to travel all the way to Katsina State to undergo orientation camp at the National Security and Civil Defense Corps Training School, Katsina, despite the state of insecurity in the entire Northwest. Also worried that the high rate of insecurity in Katsina State is capable of affecting corps members' psychology and disturbed that the state of insecurity in the state is already a threat to life and property, which necessitated the shutting down of telecommunication service has communication very, very difficult. resolved to mandate the Committee of Youth Development to investigate the refusal of the National Youth Service Corps to reopen the orientation camp in Maiduguri despite peace in the state and despite letters by the governor. Also,
Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Members. Kwamati Laori, representing Numan Jamsalamu, the Federal Constituency from Adama State. I second the motion as moved by my colleague, Honorable Zanna. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That you want to? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am Uzoman Kimabonta. Mr. Speaker, I listened attentively and passionately to the mover of this motion. I'm also almost persuaded with the sentiments attached to the motion. But, Mr. Speaker, there are some fundamentals we need to address and need to be sure. Mr. Speaker, he alluded that the camp was closed because of insecurity and gave us facts here. Mr. Speaker, he also said that the camp commandant had refused in spite of reasons he alluded. Mr. Speaker, he also said now the corporate was said they had to go to Katsina. In the same leg, he also saying that Katsina, the neighboring state, is saddled also insecurity. There is a double jeopardy here. I want you to assure us the reason for the closure. Is it abated? Is it right now? Mr. Speaker, 2 days ago, I saw in the front paper that military telling us don't bother in spite of the explosions that we had. They said there are 4 explosions in Maiduguri. And military said don't bother, have nothing to fear. That they're telling us have nothing to fear and they're entering Abuja almost. Yet we are told have nothing to fear. Mr. Speaker, I don't know what I meant the prayer to say, are we going to ensure, extra ensure, copper going to Maiduguri? From your statement, I even want to say, can we also close Katsina since, according to asking legislative compliance to agree, let us not resolve what will make us not serious. Let us resolve what is only doable. On that end, I want to amend the prayers
maybe
to say,
my brother, I am not stopping you, but I want to beg you that if you read the prayer of the motion, it's very simple. Say investigate. If you are to investigate, it means then there's latitude for us. It's for the committee now to return to how whatever they have discovered, and that's why I just put the question. And I think I'm in order. I want to beg those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's a bit. Mr. Colleagues, the 14th order of the day is motion on need to apply stringent measures to curtail the excesses of online loan providers standing in the name of Akin Alabi. Honorable Alabi is invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Akin Alabi. I represent the good people of Egbeda on the need to apply stringent measures to curtail the excesses of online loan providers. The House notes that the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic's far-reaching impact on the global economy has been significant, with evidence across all sectors of the economy. Also notes that to cushion the impact of the pandemic, a rising number of Nigerians have resorted to digital lenders to sort out urgent financial needs, as access to loans from the traditional financial institutions is often a long and painstaking process. Further notes that there's a growing increase in the number of digital lending service providers who have seemingly simplified the lending process and increased access to loans remotely and quickly. Concerned that several lending platforms are operating outside the principles of lawful processing of personal data as required under the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation and other relevant provisions on data protection in Nigeria. Also concerned that many online loan providers are exploiting the growing need for financial assistance and engaging in unfair collection practices by subjecting Nigerians to situations where their contacts are besieged with unsolicited messages from the loan providers in a bid to force the borrowers to pay. Disturbed that the online loan providers have resorted to a pesky habit of shaming as a tactic to get their customers to pay and taking actions that are tantamount to privacy violation, intimidation, and harassment. Also disturbed that some online lenders operating in the country do not have a privacy notice, while some privacy notice of those who have is often not comprehensive enough to explain how a user's data is processed. Worried that the recovery agents for the lending firms are mostly unprofessional and often apply unethical methods, including impersonating lawyers and security officers, in a bid to recover borrowed funds from defaulting clients. Cognizant that the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation was established due to the government's recognition that information must be safeguarded, regulated, and protected against atrocious breaches, the House resolves to 1, urge the Central Bank of Nigeria to make feasible regulations to curb the extremism of unscrupulous online providers in Nigeria. 2, also urge state governments to ensure more stringent regulations that protect the interests of third-party individuals from receiving unsolicited messages. 3, further urge the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, to ensure strict adherence to the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation by all loan providers. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, mandate the Committee on Human Rights to ensure compliance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleagues, I'm Representative Ibrahim Babajide Obanikoro, and I represent Etiosa Federal Constituency in the Center of Excellence. I rise to second the motion ably moved by my colleague, Rep. Akin Alabi. I so second.
Yes. You may go ahead and throw more light to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I'm Akin Alabi. I represent the good people of Egbeda Federal Constituency. I'm from Oyo State. Mr. Speaker, this motion is quite straightforward, and we want to highlight the activities of online loan providers. Mr. Speaker, here's the typical situation. Mr. A goes to an online lender, gets approved of the loan. Then when Mr. A defaults, the online loan providers begin to call all the people on the contacts of Mr. A. They start to call Mr. B, Mr. C, Mr. D, even threatening those people that if they do not fish out Mr. A, they are also guilty and they are also going to be prosecuted. What I'm saying is this, Mr. Speaker. When the loan provider was dealing with Mr. A, Mr. B was not aware. Even though Mr. A will have signed some agreements that they can access his phone contacts, doesn't mean Mr. B accepted to receive unsolicited commercial messages. Mr. Speaker, as long as Mr. B, Mr. C were not aware when the deal was being made, when the money was being disbursed, there's no reason why they should be harassed. They are infringing on my privacy. They are infringing on Mr. B's, Mr. C's privacy by sending unsolicited messages to them. I'm not suggesting that online loan providers should not retrieve their loans. Of course they should retrieve their loans. But they should not contact those that did not assent, that did not agree to be guarantors to the people they loaned money to. Mr. Speaker, that's what this motion is trying to highlight. And also, obviously, to urge these loan providers to make sure that only those that qualify that they can give loans, because what they do now is that they just give anybody loans because they know that they're going to resort to any extreme means to be able to retrieve that money. So there's a whole lot of mess going on in that industry, Mr. Speaker, and that's what I want the House to look into. Thank you.
I thought I should go before descending to the leadership. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. Agbedi Yetimene Frederick is my name. I represent Sagbama. I support this motion because I am one of the sufferers of these text messages guaranteeing loans of people I don't know. In a month, I receive up to 2 or 3 texts stating that I guaranteed somebody to take a loan. The person has refused to pay, and that they are going to take all drastic measures against me to pay back the loan that I guaranteed the individual. Name of the individual, I don't know. Mr. Speaker, it is an harassment that is going on. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, even the banks are involved in this. You may go to an ATM and want to either make one transaction or the other. And if you make a mistake, you'll be surprised to see that a bank has credited you with a loan. A loan that you had no mind of your own to ask for from the bank. And you start seeing that, oh, we have credited such amount of money to you as a loan. How? Mr. Speaker, this is becoming a worrisome development. If I want a loan, I should go for it myself. If I want to guarantee, I should be able to sign a document to guarantee someone who wants a loan. Not for me to be harassed with text messages constantly that I guarantee somebody, the person I don't know, phone numbers I don't know, when and how I don't know. I think this matter requires an holistic investigation by Parliament so that we'll be able to deal with these issues. So I support this motion in its entirety, and I urge Parliament to support this motion so that proper investigative action be taken. Thank you, honorable colleagues.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Honorable colleagues, Mr. Speaker, this motion on the need to apply stringent measures to curtail the excesses of online loan providers I'm a bit conflicted about it. Because, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I believe that the central bank and Nigerian laws are very clear, and even regulations are very clear on how you acquire the capacity, on the pre-qualifications for you to be a lender, to be a loan giver. That you do it online, I don't think it makes any difference. That you do it practically, it doesn't matter. But if there is fraud or misconduct or acts of illegality that is going on online, we cannot approximate it to be online lenders. We cannot approximate such illegal or inappropriate action where you assign loans or give money to people who have not applied, or you now begin to assign guarantors to people who have not sought for it from particular people. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I think what we need to do is to situate actually properly what is happening in this business. We cannot be asking people to ensure this or comply with this. What actually is happening? Because Nigerian laws and regulations have have a pre-qualification for who should be a lender. That you do it online or you do it physically by physical contact is a different matter. But if you are operating illegally and you are doing Yahoo business online, we cannot, as a parliament, and say, look, we should do this. So I believe that what we should do is to delete the prayers as asked and ask the relevant committee of parliament to investigate what actually is happening. Because some of our colleagues have attested on such things happening. We must situate it. We must find out, make a finding on what actually is happening. So I believe that the motion is good, but I think the prayers should be for us to establish what is happening in that industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Amadi Dennis. I represent Udi Ezagu Federal Constituency of Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, the motion on the floor is a very sensitive one that we need to treat cautiously. We cannot mix up issues as a parliament. People globally, they are allowed to take facilities through online means. It's the duty of the data management office of the institution to manage the integrity of their data to ensure that fraudsters do not encroach on their system. So we will not wake up openly and say that people who are given on-loan facilities, that we should checkmate them. There are regulatory agencies like the Central Bank that also license these people, including the thrift and loans. They all have licenses. But in as much as they do, there are also some black market operators that are operating without license. So what we need to do, Mr. Speaker, is to amend this motion, asking the committee on banking to investigate this matter, bring in the Central Bank, and educate Nigerians on the appropriate institutions where they can take facilities from. Not people who are doing black market lending, but situations whereby people are complaining that their names or their data are being referenced as guarantors to loan they don't know about. If you've not committed an offense, you don't have anything to worry about. The DSS is there, police is there. If anybody accosts you on facility you did not endorse, or supply your private information, your BVN, or sign guarantorship, you take up the person under legal framework to address embarrassment. So for a population of over 200 million people, we should encourage online facility processes to minimize time and security issue attached with the physical movement of documentation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any meetings calling everybody on our phone?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, Honorable Anzaria representing Balanga Bildi Federal Constituency, Mr. Speaker, I'm from Gombe State. Mr. Speaker, I support the motion, but I also have an interest. I wanted to share the line of Honorable Dennis. Mr. Speaker, I think the motion is good, but we also have to be specific. We need to differentiate between fraud and what is going on online. Globally, everybody is going online, and that, I believe, is the easiest way of getting things done. Now, what I wanted to add again is the issue of our regulatory bodies. If there are fraud in some of these processes, what are the regulatory bodies doing to curtail those fraud? And if there's a fraud in a particular agency or a company, I think, as the honorable member said, that should be referred to the committee. But just like the honorable member said, some of those text messages coming everywhere around the world, you see all those fraud coming on online. So it's not surprising, it's not a new thing to this country. But I also feel there's a need for regulatory bodies to be up and doing to make sure that the online processes, the due process are followed in terms of taking up facilities or loan as is stated in the motion. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Before your amendment, comrade has contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to add that I don't see this motion classifying what is happening as fraud or crime per se. It supports online lending quite well. It is not against online lending. But in our case in Nigeria, what is happening just now is that the people are compromising the data in the phones of those people who took loan from them. In the process, harassing and undermining the fundamental human right of innocent people. Like Fred said, I have received several of such notices that they are going to begin to prosecute. And I called these individuals, and they said, no, they never mentioned any guarantor. But when you check again, what they do is that they send such notices to everybody who is on whose phone is registered on the debtor's line. And that they don't have the right to do that. So what he's saying, as far as I'm concerned, is quite in order. This motion is in order. It's not an attempt to stop online, lending. Online lending we cannot stop at this point in time because that is common everywhere in the world. But then it must be regulated. And what the prayers in this motion clearly points at how that regulation can be done. If at all we need to do any amendment, I think we should rather think of including the Committee on Banking and Finance, so that they will work with the regulators to ensure that whoever is giving loan, we have to comply with the rules for recovering their loans, not by harassing innocent Nigerians. That is what I think is the case here, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Amendment, Honorable Marano.
Thank you very much, our Right Honorable Speaker, my honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Ajibola Muraina. I represent Ibarakwa Central, Ibarakwa North Federal Constituency, and from Oyo State. I want to most humbly suggest that a new prayer that will enable us to know what exactly is happening be added by way of prayer 5 to read, mandate the committees on banking and communications, and maybe human rights as well, to investigate this matter and report back to the House within 2 weeks. I so move, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Jide Abraham Olajide. I represent Lagos Mainland Federal Constituency, Lagos State. I stand to second the motion as moved by way of amendment. Thank you.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, Honorable Toby, Deputy Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, Toby Okechukwu is my name, representing an area of Gojira Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I think with the amendment made by Moreno, there wouldn't be any need for me to repeat that, but I will say that prayers 1 to 3 should be deleted, and they will come into effect, or any actions to be done will come into effect after the investigation. So my prayer is that we delete 1 to 3.
Add to the prayer, to the amendment. Nalaraba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My highly respected colleagues, Abubakar Hassan Nalaraba is my name. I represent the good people of Awedo Makana Federal Constituency. I am from Nasarawa State, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the amendment ably moved by my dear colleague, Honorable Toby. I so second.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Patterson, Deputy Leader of the House. You have an amendment? Thank you. Respected colleagues, those in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. You are to move that will step down the next motion for further legislative input. With licensing private security outfit for protection of politically exposed persons.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am Abubakar Samfulata. I represent Benua Krika Sama, Good Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Jigawa, so move, Mr. Speaker.
Item number 16 stepped down by the leader of the House. Respected colleagues, 16 order of the day is a motion on need to streamline the services being rendered to Nigerians by Nigerian embassies and high commissions abroad, standing in the name of Honorable Obina Chidoka. Honorable Chidoka is invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Obina Chidoka, member representing Idemili North, Idemili South, Federal Constituency of Anambra State. Mr. Speaker, I rise this afternoon to move a motion on the need to streamline the services being rendered to Nigerians by Nigerian embassies and high commissions abroad. The House notes that Nigerian embassies and high commissions are the nation's flagship territories abroad, and as such should project the best image of Nigeria's pride and the best example of the values placed on citizens. Also notes that the embassies and the high commissions are safe havens for Nigerians in diaspora, whether living abroad or traveling abroad. Further notes the deplorable level of services rendered by Nigerian embassies and high commissions around the world to Nigerians, particularly those in South Africa, the United Kingdom, the USA, and the USA in the area of passports, national identity card issuance, renewals, and ancillary services. Concerned that the treatment meted out on Nigerians abroad by officials of the Nigerian embassies and high commissions have only affected the lives and have not only affected the lives and businesses of the concerned citizens, it has brought shame and disgrace on Nigerians' image and the psyche of our citizens. Also concerned that there have been reported incidences of extortion and fraudulent intimidation by embassy and high commission officials in the past. Further concerned that unless an urgent measure is taken to put a permanent halt to this trend, the nation's embassies and high commissions will become a terror to the people they were established to serve. And determined to address this menace and bring succor to Nigerians living or traveling abroad, and to uplift the nation's pride, knowing that with simple automation, most of these embarrassing issues can be resolved. The House therefore resolves to 1, urge the Federal Ministry of Interior, through the Nigerian Immigration Service, the National Identity Management Commission, and other relevant agencies to fully automate the processes of passport and national identity card issuance to A, reduce the incidences of physical attendance, and B, reduce the waiting period for fresh passport issuance and for renewals to a maximum of 10 working days or less. And C, ensure that only statutory charges are payable for services through officially designated channels. 2, also urge the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs to streamline the activities of nations' embassies and high commissions towards efficient service delivery to Nigerians abroad. And finally, Mr. Speaker, mandate the Committees on Foreign Affairs and Diaspora to investigate the allegations and report back within 2 weeks. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder, Ali. Seconder first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and my dear colleagues, Ali Adeyemi Taufik is my name. I represent Mushin 1 Federal Constituency in Lagos. I rise to second the motion as proposed by my very good friend, Honorable Obiona Shidoka. Mr. Speaker, I so second. Thank you.
I thought the motion is quite very elaborate. Yes. Go ahead and.
Yeah, it's actually very straightforward motion, Mr. Speaker, but I would like just for me to give an experience as a sitting honorable member that these issues are not just for us to write motions. It's also something that we should look into. What issues I went through that day? When I couldn't take it anymore, it was then, in fact, I decided to sit at a place and they told me to stand up, that it was only for the ambassador or something. You know, they would treat you with such levity. It was then I revealed my identity to them and insisted that I must see the ambassador in DC. Ordinarily, when you put your passport for your child who is born in America or anywhere, they will tell you to come in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. They gave me that visa in 1 hour. And I'm sure it's because of my privilege in this country, having run an election, which is difficult to win, to come here, to represent our people. You get abroad and you see the same people being treated in a way they shouldn't be treated. All over, from South Africa to Ghana and all that. Nigeria is a great country. If you go to New York, our embassy, our high commission is in a strategic place. All over the world, we're a great country. We should treat ourselves as such. And we shouldn't allow foreign affairs officers to mess up our image abroad. So these, and they are very good ones, don't get me wrong, sir. Because the officials in Washington, D.C., maybe because realizing who I am, immediately activated their system and, of course, treated us well. But what about the hundreds? Some had to come all the way from Dallas, some had to come all the way from other places for us to have these issues. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you immensely for allowing us to take this issue. Already my colleague here, Chuchu Onyema, is already talking about his experience he had at another embassy. And many people here, I'm sure, must have had such experiences. So what we want is every need to go to these embassies or commissions to do one job or the other to make sure they get the needed attention they deserve.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Honorable Emmanuel Nkponwodo. I represent the Plenary 8th Federal Constituency from Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment to prayer number 3 that Committee on Interior should be included among the committees for investigation. Thank you.
Seconder. Yes, sir.
Federal Constituency of Lagos State, I rise to second the amendment proposed to the motion by my colleague. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion, the amendment, say aye. Against any? That's have it. Another amendment? Yes, sir.
Add to prayer 1A that they should engage consultants. And have consultants working for them, and as a result of those activities, to my knowledge, I know they've reduced the time frame of collection. But just for emphasis in this motion, to prayer 1A, that we should add that the engagement of consultants are required.
Amendment, my brother, I'm sorry. Can you put more simply for all of us to understand? Put it more in a way that we'll all understand. I don't understand your amendment.
To reduce the incidences and physical attendance by engaging consultants for such
through the workforce that have been employed by the in position to perform that function, that they will employ that in the service of consultants. But for us now, as the first point to ask them to do that, I think that may not be fair. I want to make that a citizens with us. It's not for us, even if they are employing consultants, it is not here for us to encourage them to employ consultants, because some people are being paid for this kind of service to be done. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I do not think that this is the first time this parliament is intervening on the experience of Nigerians who are outside this country. And that has to do with the humiliation they go through day in, day out in other countries. So I think the motion by Mr. Chidoka is quite is on a good state, and it is much more persuasive because he experienced it. He had an incident where, amongst other Nigerians, lined up because he had to disclose his identity, capacity level, the competence for them to properly discharge their responsibilities is that they are fit for purpose. But from whatever reason, they want to subject our citizens to this jeopardy, I do not know. It is also good that he has called for investigation. I believe, like you mentioned earlier on, when my colleague Johnson said that there has to be front-end activities before you know whether you hire a consultant or whatever remedies you have to do. But Mr. Speaker, if they could treat Honorable Chidoka fairly well, let them treat other Nigerians that way. And the first measures we will expect from this, prior to end of investigation by the House, the Ministry of the Immigration Department and then Ministry of Internal Affairs have to raise their game. I do not know how it is difficult when you have opportunity to raise revenue, Mr. Speaker. You have an opportunity to issue passports, to issue visas, raise revenue. Then you begin to ambush, obstruct, neglect, or ignore to discharge your responsibility by people we have hired to do that job overseas. There are better ways to represent the country, Mr. Speaker. So I believe and I support this motion wholeheartedly, and the House should investigate, the committee should investigate and come back to the House within 4 weeks.
Thank you. You know, leader, I have to allow you because it's like your mind was off the point where because we have reached the position of taking amendments. And after amendments, we are supposed to put the question. You are not taking back to debate. But I have to those in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Against say nay. That's it. Chairman rules. Well, the 17th order of the day is a motion on need to upgrade Katungo's Snakebite Center to a national snakebite research and treatment center, standing name Honorable Karu Simon Elisha. I have confided with the chairman rules to seek that Honorable Karu stand down this motion because you cannot upgrade an institution using motion. You are supposed to come through bill. I don't know whether he has consulted you. Thank you. So motion stepped down by the leave of the House. Respected colleagues, the 18th order of the day is a motion on urgent need to curb incessant kidnapping in Lagos and other states across the country, standing in the name of Honorable Muftau Adewale. Honorable Adewale is invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Muftau Egberongbe. I represent Apapa Federal Constituency. I'm from Lagos State, and my motion goes down. Urgent need to curb incessant kidnapping in Lagos and other states across the country. The House knows that almost on a daily basis, Nigerians are faced with news of abduction of persons in different parts of the country. Also note that according to reports in the Vanguard newspaper of September 29, 2021, there is a resurgence of kidnapping in Lagos State, as many people were reported to have been kidnapped within a few weeks, with the kidnappers demanding huge ransom. Concerned that the kidnappers always escape with their victims through the waterways and hide in the creeks as they wait for ransom. Disturbs that the kidnapping is cut across all areas of the country, as there have been several reports of kidnappers blocking highways and attacking or suspecting commuters. Worried that when victims are taken to the various hideouts, the female victims are mostly raped, while some victims are killed and their corpses abandoned in the bush. Resolved to urge, one, the federal government to deploy special forces in the Nigerian Police Force, the Nigerian Army, and the Nigerian Navy on a rescue mission to free the kidnapped victims in Lagos and other parts of the country. Also urge the federal government to carry out training of special forces across the security agencies, who will be mandated to patrol waterways, creeks, and highways across the country. Mandate the committees of police affairs, army, and navy to ensure compliance. I so move.
At the estimate,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My highly respected colleagues, Umar Abdulkadir Sarki is my name. I speak for the people of Katago Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Bauchi State. I write to second the motion ably moved by Honorable Muftau Adewale. I so second.
Would you like to throw more light or put the question? Put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. Should I put the question again? I had somebody say nay. Thank you. Not in this parliament, I suppose so. Respected colleagues, the 19th order of the day is a motion on urgent need to connect Kaura local government area of Kaduna State to national grid. Sani and Mukhtar Zakari Chawai, Honorable Chawai is invited to move the motion.
Another one up there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is on the urgent need to connect Kauru, local government area of Kaduna State, to the national grid. The House notes the efforts of the federal government to reduce poverty by improving power infrastructure nationwide, as over half of the country's population lacks access to stable power. Also notes that the establishment of off-grid power substations is a cost-saving short-term solution by the federal government to provide the immediate energy needs of Nigerians. Aware that lack of provision of basic amenities raises feelings of disaffection among the populace and leads to crime and insecurity. Cognizant of the need to provide electricity to communities across Kauru local government area of Kaduna State in order to boost employment opportunities, investments, and engage the teeming youth. Resolves to urge the Rural Electrification Agency to intervene by installation of a solar mini-grid power station in Kauru Federal Constituency and neighboring communities. Also urge the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, to complete connection of transmission lines in the zone to the national grid. Finally, mandate the Committee on Power to ensure compliance. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Mukhtar Ahmed, politically known as Morovia. I rise to second the motion ably moved by my namesake, Honorable Mukhtar Zakari Chawai, on the urgent need to connect Kaura local government area of Kaduna State to the national grid. Mr. Speaker, I so second. Sorry, Mr. Speaker.
Shall I put the question? Thank you. It's an infrastructural motion, after all. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. The 20th order of the day is a motion on need to review the tertiary institutions and basic education curriculum to meet current realities as standing in Honorable Kolawole Taiwo Musbau, Honorable Musbao is invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my name is Honorable Kola Olitaiwo. I represent Ajeromi Felodu Federal Constituency. I'm from Lagos. I hereby move that the House know the present administration's towering effort and improving access to basic education through the universal basic education programs, as well as revamping the tertiary education system. Concerned that one of the major contributors to the high rate of youth unemployment in the country and its resultant effects is the non-functional educational system, which appears not to prepare youth for gainful employment. Also concerned that although most countries have realized the flaws in the educational system and are either changing or have adopted the fresh initiative to create a system that prepares youth for work and entrepreneurship, Nigerian educational system seems to be stuck in a rut. Worried that scholars, educationists, and education administrators are either reluctant or unaware of the need to take urgent steps to improve on Nigeria's educational curriculum to positively impact the productivity of the country's youth. Resolved to urge the Ministry of Education to direct all relevant agencies and institutions under its jurisdiction to update and develop functional educational curriculum for schools at all levels. Mandate the Committee on Basic Education and Services and Tertiary Education and Services to ensure compliance. I so move.
Maybe I should go this way.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Muftau Egberongbe. I represent Apapa Federal Constituency. I stand to second the motion as ably moved by Honorable Kola Olitaiwo. I so second.
Should I put the question, or you would like to? Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. Respected colleagues, the 21st order of the day is consideration of a bill for an act to provide establishment of Federal University of Science and Technology, Lao, Taraba State, and for related matters. All members should recall that the bill was committed to Committee of the Whole on Tuesday, 9 November 2021. The House Leader will move for its consideration.
MNI, representing the great people of Akoko Federal Constituency. I am from Edo State. Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Science and Technology, Lao, Taraba State, and for related matters, HB 1587, be considered. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Acting Chief Whip.
Thank you. Acting Whip.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Musa Mohammed Fali is my name, member representing Al-Khaliri Kirvi. I stand to move second the motion moved by the leader. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's it. The Speaker, the 22nd order of the day is consideration of a bill for an act to repeal the Terrorism Prevention Act number 10, 2011, as amended, and enact the Terrorism Provision and Prevention Act 2021, make provisions for offenses relating to terrorism, prohibit financing of terrorism and consolidate all acts relating to to terrorism and for related matters. All members recall that the bill was committed to Committee of the Whole on Wednesday, 24th July 2019. The House Leader will move for its consideration.
Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, I move for the consideration of a bill for an act to repeal the Terrorism Prevention Act number 10 of 2011 as amended and enact the Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Act 2021. Make provisions for offenses relating to terrorism, prohibit the financing of terrorism, and consolidate all acts relating to terrorism and for related matters. HB 56/2019. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder. Honorable Manu.
Honorable colleagues, my name is Munir Babadana Gundi. I represent Kumbota Federal Constituency of Kano State. Mr. Speaker, I hereby Prevention Act number 2011 as amended and enact the Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Act 2021 made prohibition for offenses. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's it. Respected colleagues, the 23rd order of the day is consideration of a report of the Committee on Health Institutions on a bill for an act to establish Federal Medical Center, Ogara, Delta State, and following matters. All members will call that the report was laid on Tuesday, 15 July 2021. Honorable Pascal Obi will move for its consideration.
Mr. Speaker, as usual, Honorable Pascal Obi is not on the floor. And unless his deputy is around to take the motion, I move that the consideration of the report be stepped down by the leave of the House. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Constitutional report stepped down by the leave of the House. Respected colleagues, the 24th order of the day is consideration of report of the Committee report of the Commerce 2004 and enact the Maize Export Prohibition Bill 2021 and for related matters. All members recall that the report was laid on Tuesday, 8 July 2021. Femi Fakaye will move for its consideration.
I remain Fakaye. I rise to move for the consideration of the report of the Committee on Commerce on a bill for an act to repeal the Export Prohibition Act, CAC 22 laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, and enact the Maize Export Prohibition Bill 2021 and for related matters, HB 29, and approve the recommendations therein as laid on the 8/7/2021. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Abdugani Johnson. I rise from Lagos. I rise to second the motion ably moved by my colleague. I so second. Thank you very much, sir.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's it. I don't know what happened. One committee will submit how many reports? The 25th order of the day is consideration of 6 reports of the Committee on Public Petition on Nigeria Lagboson will move for its consideration.
It's working. Okay. Thank you, my dear Speaker, hard-working Speaker. Speaker, as a way of cost of information demands, I should tell you, Mr. Speaker, that this is a carryover since 2 months ago of all these reports. Today, I have the privilege of standing to say that the House do consider the reports of the Committee on Public Petitions on the petition by Mrs. Eka Florence. 26, I also rise really indulgence that the House do consider the report of the Committee on Public Petitions on petition by M.O. Lagunji. 27, the House do consider a petition by Nnameka Ejiofor and associates on behalf of the management of 6 consultants against the Central Bank of Nigeria. 28, Mr. Speaker, I rise also that the House do consider the report of the Committee on Public Petitions by Igachi Development Association against the Vice Chancellor of Federal University Lokoja, Kogi State, on the non-recognition as the bona fide host community and non-compliance with the corporate social responsibility of the Igachi community by the institution, and approve the recommendations therein. 29, Mr. Speaker, how do you consider the report of the Committee on Public Petitions on a petition by Honorary Ode Ajibwe, Managing Director, Eurafric Energy Limited, against the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and Director of Department of Petroleum Resources and Petroleum Energy Limited on Dawes Island Marginal Field, and the revocation of their field license in April 2020 for failure to bring the field into production, and approve the recommendation therein, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Mr. Speaker, number 30, I rise so that the House do consider the report of the Committee on Public Petitions on a petition by the TED Fund, sponsored stranded scholars against the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, on the appeal to reconsider imposing the remaining on 2113, 2114 students sponsored scholars, and approve the recommendation there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Musa Umar Garu, member representing Gozakawa Federal Constituency. I am from Kano State. I rise to second the adoption of the report presented by the chairman.
Thank you. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader move that we revert to resolve into committee of the whole to consider reports. Sorry.
I move that this House do resolve to committee of the whole to consider report. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I'm Lawan Shatima Ali, representing Bursari, Gaidam in Federal Constituency.
I rise to second the motion ably moved by the leader for the consideration of the constitution of the House to the Committee of the Whole, sir. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. House is hereby resolved to Committee of the Whole to consider report.
May I have you?
Respected colleagues, the first report is to consider that of Federal University of Technology, Taraba Lau, and it is for the establishment of Federal University in the Taraba State. I believe it's very stable. Can we just move to close by close consideration? Clause 1. Five, 6, 8, plus 9, 11, 12, 15, 16, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24, 5, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Oh yes, that's 32. Short title. Somebody is objecting to it. The schedules. Explanatory memoranda. Long title. The next bill is for an act to repeal the Terrorism Prevention Act number 10, 2011 as amended, and enact the Terrorism Prevention Act 2011, make provision for offenses related to terrorism, prohibit the financing of terrorism, and candidates of all and consider on. This is important to curb the instant security being faced by the country. Clause 1, 2, 5, 6. Clause 7. Clause 8. Ten. Sixteen. 16. 19. 21. 22. 23, 25, 27, 28. That's 2. 34. 33. 34. 40. 44. 46. 51. 6. 58. 59. 60. Close 61. 66. 68. 71. 72. 75. 6. 7. 8. 80. Plus 81. 90. Clause 91, the title, short title. Long title. On Commerce on a Bill of an Act to repeal the Export Provision Act Cap E22 Laws Federation Nigeria 2004 and first matters. Will you throw more light? Step down? No, it's not step down. The deputy is here.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I remain Dr. Richard Bundy. The bill, as you have rightly seen, is a bill for an act to repeal the Export Provision Act of the Law of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 and for related matters. The bill repealed or forbid agricultural items like yams, coffee, and others for export. But when the committee looked at it and conducted a public hearing, we agreed and come to consensus that the other items should be repealed. Only maize that should be forbidden for export. The report should be considered. All other items should be repealed so that they can go for export to earn foreign exchange for our own country. If that is done, it will be for the good of our country. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable colleagues, the Deputy Chairman. I so second, sir.
Thank you. Plus one. There was no need for the committee. He was supposed to give us the briefs of what okay. Observation. This is a bill. Yes, sir. Reenact another one. No, they would do the cleaning before this. Thank you. Clause 2. Explanatory memoranda. Long title. Clause 4. 3 and 4. Where is 3 and 4? It's not 3 and 4. Okay, 3 and 4, yeah. Then explanatory memoranda. Long title. The next report to be considered is that of public petitions by Mrs. Ika Florence Nene against First City Monumental Bank, National Assembly Complex on illegal, fraudulent, and unauthorized withdrawal of 1 million naira from her bank account on 15 October 2020 at about 7 p.m. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleagues, this is a case of man saying humanity to a man, and in this case, the man saying humanity to a woman. His Florence Nena is a worker in that.
Well, speak the language we will understand.
Mr. Speaker, the language is just that this woman who is working here saved some money in one of these banks. The following day he went there, the money was swept up. And they petitioned the house and we found out that she had a genuine case and told the bank to refund her money. And there's an amendment, Mr. Speaker, that FMCB, GTB, eBay, and Zenith should collectively pay Mrs. Ikafor the sum of 1 million naira. Collectively, not each. That's the amendment. All of them should pay 1 million. Because it was 1 million that she paid, and the people decided to transfer it to various banks and swindled her. She paid 1 million in her account. The people decided to do Yahoo.
Can I explain?
I don't know why you will now involve the remaining banks. Because as for me, the first bank should be the one responsible.
No, all of them, because they moved the money into their various banks. Then we told them.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My honorable colleagues, I remain Honorable Kabir Idris, member representing Kura Mabuga and Malam. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, this issue has been going on in different banks. And how it happens when a money is paid into a particular account, which is either the GTB or FCMB or any of the account, if you include the second account, because they are connivers within the two accounts, but the punishment should go only to that particular account that money has been paid, but not to generalize all the banks. That's just my submission, Mr. Speaker.
But the remaining banks is like, if I have an account and money is paid to you now want to query every payment, which is not the authority. It is for the bank officer or bank account officer now to liaise with whoever that is operating or managing his account to say, okay, can I authorize this payment or can this payment go? That's why I think we should restrict it to one. If you make it general, it may suffer. The person may not get justice. Sorry. Deputy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Mukhtar Ahmed. I represent Kaduna South Federal Constituency. Actually, what happened, I'm a member of the Public Petitions Committee, Mr. Chairman. What happened, Mr. Chairman, is that the money was paid into Guaranteed Trust Bank. That was where she deposited the money. But unfortunately, fraudsters used the account to transfer the money to the other banks, these two other banks. So when these two other banks work, and that they are trying to trace the people that collected that money, the main bank has agreed to pay everything, but they will get the other monies from the other banks to settle them.
Opinion, they can be liable for somebody that they don't even know. So the relationship is between the banks. If there's a movement of funds from one bank to another, it is now the responsibility of the other bank to recover their money back. But the other banks cannot take responsibility for someone on the floor, please. She's not an account holder. They don't even know her. There's only a movement of funds from her account to somebody's account in their bank, whom they don't even know. So I think that responsibility should be limited to the money, the account where the money is being deposited.
We are saying the same thing, Mr. Chairman, but what we are saying, these banks were called and they accepted responsibility that yes, this money had come into their account. The fact that they have come to the committee, they have faced the committee and they have accepted responsibility. So what we are saying, the main bank should pay the customer her money, then the other banks should also pay to the member the money that was there.
Maybe if I were you, my recommendation, second recommendation, after accepting to pay the money, is for them to fish out owners of those accounts and hand them over. We should hand them, the account officers, those who are managing those accounts, to the relevant economic crimes for prosecution. That would have been my own recommendation. Yes, sir.
You see, I think, Mr. Chairman, I think we are also bypassing procedure on the part of CBN, NDIC, and what have you. And if my understanding, for us to sanction the bank, whether we have that power, we should have gone to sanction these people, effective way of enforcing some of these our considerations. That is how I see it. Let us know the legality in this issue, but let us be guided by what the law says. Thank you.
For the fact that we make laws to regulate their own activity, it means then we have the right to sanction them. That one is unambiguous. But as to how we are going to do it, it's a bad group of bad person. And if they don't pay, that we are not asking. And my yes, sir.
I remain Honorable Show Balaraka Akali, member of the Tembo Denga Dengishun Treaty. So I want to draw our attention to the severity and the seriousness of this crime in the institution of the National Assembly. These people that are squandering funds of unsuspecting customers of our banks is a syndicate. Send it around says a lot about what the syndicate is doing. Particularly here, that we have 469, of course, National Assembly members and over 2,000 staff of the National Assembly. So I think, honestly, the perpetrators, sir, in all of those banks should bear the full brunt of the law. This is terrorism financing. Who knows? And it's creeping into National Assembly. And I want to thank the committee for really doing a great job on this. But, sir, we should really dig deeper. If they are allowed to go free or with light punishment with this one, they will go and do worse than this with all the large number of staff and Nigerians in this very important
come up with your recommendation or amendment.
Sir, my amendment is, as you have pointed out, to also engage the EFCC and ICPC to really dig deeper into this syndicate of crimes across banks, because we have almost 10 banks in this and CBN also. So that's my amendment, sir. Thank you very much.
To the amendment. Recommendation 1, it may be adding recommendation 2. If we are asking them to pay the money, in addition to paying the money, the financial crime should also investigate the matter and prosecute the CBN.
Amendment to the recommendation. You cannot,
Yes, sir.
You cannot direct the MD, CEO of a bank to make payment. You only direct the bank. But when you say the MD and the CEO, it's personal to him.
It makes quite a bit.
That is, mandate the bank.
Yes.
And nice, comma. I want to continue with
Agreed, sir.
Mandate the FCMB to pay the 1 million naira with prevailing interest rate from the period. You cannot Because you see, you cannot make other banks liable. If you want, because for holding the 1 million naira, they have to pay the accrued interest on the 1 million by holding. Because if the bank gives out a loan of 1 million, after all this period of time, they are supposed to pay with interest. So my amendment is only the FCMB should pay with accrued interest.
Any seconder?
So let exactly.
Which one is Mr. Chairman?
You say?
I'm not seconding that.
So let it be seconded first now. The first one has not been seconded.
I'm not seconding, Mr. Chairman, but I just add one or two things. You see, the number of frauds and other misgivings that are happening with the banks, if we go the way Babangida is saying, then we will ask some of the banks to close shop. Really.
You say?
Some of the banks will close shop. Because if you are saying to refund, it's okay. But when you say that they should return it with interest, accrued interest, it's going to create very big problem for us. Let us be very realistic. The issue of repaying, yes. But for you to include that they should pay it along with accrued interest, the number of frauds that is happening in this country, we are going to create. No. Let us be realistic.
Let me a little bit. I want to appreciate your concern, but sometimes you give out punishment to serve as deterrent, and when this is happening, it's expected that others will learn their lesson. All we are trying to do and what we want the banks to do now is to close areas of fraud where Nigerians are suffering. And by the time they pay 1, 2, 3, it will make them more prudent and be more on the alert, because there are certain payments they are not supposed to allow. They are supposed to clear with the person who, apart from the laws that they are making. These are the part of the condition that you do now to ensure justice is given. If it is their own money, would they leave you? They don't care whether you're going to sell your property and go without a shelter on your head. But all they want is their money back. For me, I agree that we must give out something that will make people be on their alert. Deterrent. What is the interest rate of 1 million naira, if I may ask?
We're not looking at the, Mr. Chairman, we're not looking only at this 1 million.
We are talking on this one. We're not talking on another one. We don't have any, don't deal with a matter that is not before you.
In some cases, Mr. Chairman, that's what I'm saying. If we allow this one to go, the big ones will follow. The big ones, Mr. Chairman, will follow. And before you know it, some of these frauds are taking place because of some glitches, because we're in the digital world. Some of these frauds are taking place because of the glitches in the system of.
He was a manager in the bank, right?
Well, let's go conduct. I think that's a normal procedure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's the
Mr.
leave of the
Chair,
House
I
to
don't know
consider.
whether I can say something briefly before.
Yes,
sir. I'm of the opinion that if banks are not prudent enough to protect customers' interests, it means that they should actually close shop. So we shouldn't protect negligent banks in this place. On that note, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, sir, I second the motion by Honorable Babangida that the banks should pay with prevailing interest for the period.
It's an amendment.
Yeah, the amendment.
Thank you.
By Babangida, so second.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Against say nay. There's a bit. Yes, sir. Bug. Solaris Bank. Recommendation as amended. Carried. Thank you. The next report to consider is for that of public petition on petition by Olagunju on behalf of Mr. Adeleke Teslin Oyedran on the unjust premature and unfair retirement from the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, a passionate appeal for the House intervention. Yes, sir.
Once more, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Adeleke Talsino Yediro went for a course on an NPC. In his temporary state there, he was retired, and we discovered that the retirement did not take due process and urged the NPC to reset. That's the summary of this statement.
DPR. Thank you. Carried? Thank you. Ijofo and associates, on behalf of the management of sales consultants against the Central Bank of Nigeria on the defamation and in the Nigerian financial system.
Went to Central Bank, they discussed it, and suddenly, hardly had they finished when Central Bank decided to implement it, we had recourse to him, telling him to send a petition. And we discovered that the case has a merit, and told Central Bank to reconcile with him. That's the summary of this process.
It's like they use his own work in their own establishment. Then I have not seen where you are asking his own due to be paid in your recommendation. It's not written. Yes, sir.
You say you did not see where?
Any compensation?
Compensation? Sanitary
It's intellectual.
Stealing of intellectual property.
Thank you.
Incidentally, the man there is a retired CBM worker. So they have a tender mechanism.
No, it doesn't
Mr. Chairman, no person has
been. What they are doing, like you are defending.
So whatever we decide, we concur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we'll look at this again. I also agree that there should be some financial compensation because it's
urge that you step it down,
property.
So that you do more work, thorough work, and return.
Don't do amendments.
Yes,
Amendment,
Mr. Chairman.
No, let's do amendment and do it.
Mr. Chairman.
So 3 months now.
No, I think you have the first-hand information. You have the materials that you work on this. Who do not have it?
Let's do amendments here, Mr.
No, I want you to own up to your own work.
Let's own up. That's the extent we can go in the committee, Mr. Chairman.
Maybe we should look at
you can do the amendment yourself today and return it tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Maybe you should address the House properly.
I want to know when my colleague from Kano, Honorable Lawan Kenken, was removed from the chairmanship.
Resigned from the position.
He has resigned?
No, I'm asking.
I think there's not much difference between Kaduna and Kano. Thank you. Colleagues, the next report will consider that of public petition on the petition by Kogi, a complaint of non-recognition of the bona fide host community and non-compliance with the corporate social responsibility to the Igachi community by the above-mentioned institution. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much once more. Mr. Chairman and colleagues, this is established that there should be corporate social responsibility should be extended to them, and then the university should be also That the case, they suddenly
Judgment on that matter.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
But you know that names of institutions normally comes up as a result of an act of National Assembly.
They are not querying. They are not querying. They just want the university to know that they are also entitled to.
No, it's not for the university. The university, anybody can be there. You can be there from Imo State. I can be there from Plateau State as BC if I'm qualified. But it's not for me now to go into and delve into a local matter. If it is on the issue of naming, names of institutions are given through act establishing the institutions.
Mr. Chairman, they are not quarreling about the naming of the institution. They are quarreling that the university should also be extending corporate social responsibility to them, since the university is stated in their place. That's all. They are not quarreling about the name.
What if I may ask, what are the things that the university is supposed to do for host community?
Pardon?
Don't start where you cannot end.
What is the judgment? The
Chairman education doing to host communities. Is there anything like that? So that you don't start what you cannot end.
Definite legal burden on any of the institutions to say by matters of necessity, they have to extend some certain privileges or right to host communities. No, the only provision is that in the governing council of all the institutions, the communities are represented. And therefore to say they have to some privileges because the institution is hoisted there, I think the law does not make such a
I'm speaking from this point because one, my own knowledge of an academic environment, you don't have something like that. And I'm speaking as a patriotic Nigerian. If you begin to do that, if you create one in one institution, you create disharmony among almost the entirety of the institutions we'll have across the country. All that is allowed.
Exist for business.
Yes, sir. It is recruitment. That recruitment, it is not to the host community. It's what is called catchment area. So it's not to that particular community. And when you make a judgment, parliamentary judgment, tomorrow it will be used. And would we have been the ones that have set the system against? Yes, sir. I'll come back to you.
Sir, let me respond to him. There is an element of what he is saying, but not captured as CSR. There's a government directives that any institution, agency, or anything that is situated in a particular environment, they should recruit their junior staff 60% from that environment. So that is enough.
That is it is not to the community, sir. It is not to the community. It is to the entirety of the state.
Yes.
So it's not that's where this one is a particular community. It's catchment area.
Thank you, Excellency, for the opportunity. Sir, the issue of host community is extremely important. It's a two-way thing. It's not only for the institution, but for the host community, sir. It involves security. It involves, prevention of encroachment. So by recognizing them also in that community,
that when you put something that you know it is not the norm of what is happening in that particular city, it's like we want to create. It's not within our purview. I want to beg. It's not within our purview. Let's do things that we know that is backed by law and is sustainable. Yes, sir.
Chairman.
I'll come back to sir.
Mr. Chairman, sir. Honorable colleagues, I think, Mr. Chairman, sir, let's refer to page 11 and committee resolution to the conclusion 6.1. The committee, in view of its finding above, urges the land to, or maybe they will apply for the compensation.
Decided. It is not the apex court. It's possible that there may be an appeal on the matter. And that's why it is not good for us to align. I want to beg that, let's take down this report, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just
to start upholding the judgment of a court. We have no business with that. We cannot direct the Vice Chancellor to implement a court judgment is improper. There are procedures in law for enforcement of judgments, which ordinarily they should follow. So ordinarily, if we go on with this, we would knock out almost all the entire...
I just want to follow what you have said. In one of my institutions, I have this similar case, that is University of Agriculture, Makodi. Federal University of Agriculture, Makodi. The same way the host community were paid by the poor part. So they are finding it difficult even to do their activities in the school. So once we set a precedent like what you said, then I think when we set a precedent like what you have said, we are opening wounds that will continue to affect our institution. We have burning issues as we talk now. So this issue that you raised, we should sustain it. That is my take.
I think report step down for further legislative input. Thank you. The next report to be considered is that of a public petition by Honori Ode Ojegba, Managing Director, Uraric Energy Limited, against the Honorable Minister of State, Petroleum and Director, Department of Petroleum Resources. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman and colleagues, this is a case of what is source to the ganja is also source to the goods. 3 people had joint operations, Mr. Chairman, and suddenly they were operating a marginal field. Suddenly the DPR revoked the marginal field and sold the marginal field to one of them without the other two knowing. And when they discovered, they petitioned the House, and we saw the merit of the case and told them to go back and ensure that 3 of them are operating the new marginal field. That's the summary of this.
Yes, sir.
From what I think, I just want to appeal that the leadership, this committee should be given a consultant to be guiding them on. Yes. Because we cannot be going forth and back. We still have about five considerations now. So I just want to move that this committee should be given a substantive consultant on various fields so that they can be guiding them.
In the wisdom of the presiding officer and then the leadership of the House, they chose to give the committee to the eldest and oldest person of the House, who
Mr. Chairman,
has a lot of wisdom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So
he
he's a sufficient consultant. Having passed through Nigerian custom for many years, in a member of the parliament.
Moved by me.
No.
That the House should give us money.
I didn't hear that. Yes, sir.
With regard to this report, I want to inform the House that the Department of Petroleum Resources hitherto, which is now defunct, now Petroleum Upstream Commission, has powers on government because it's an asset of government. And holding it means it is becoming a liability. And in their the industry experts have said, the pressure of a field, a marginal field, becomes decomposed when it's for him to operate it. So I think the petitioners here lacks what is called local standing. They don't have right to petition. Recently, about 157 fields held on by others earlier were revoked by the government and bidded, and successful winners have been given. And I know as of today, more than 50% of them have been taken over by interested and qualified bidders. That's what I can add.
Yes, sir. Honorable Chair, sir, and the House. This is one of in rest marginal fields. As a responsible institution, I think that the summary of the work of this committee would have been to say that this House should set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the totality of, the marginal fields that have been received from previous holders and reallocated to some other people. Let's look at the genuinity and, whether they follow the due and extant laws of the land. Because a lot of Nigerians are confused.
We don't need ad hoc.
We can use standing committee or ad hoc committee, but this should be thoroughly investigated.
Thank you. Sorry, before your intervention, we are in the committee of the whole, and it's expected every person should bring his own experience to bear in terms of the areas of oversight. And that will also help help us in taking our decision. The point raised, you did mention, should be of concern to us. It should not be at the whims and caprices of the chief executive or whoever that is managing it to say, today I can take away oil field ABC without following the external rules or guidelines. This, I believe, should not be allowed, because all Nigerians should have equal opportunity to look into this matter again. Then we have it before us for further consideration. That would be much better. You still have something to say? Yes, sir.
One, all companies that have bidded in the process, names of all fields awarded to those successful to be indicated in either in pair or alone. 4, list of all those that have awardees but failed to pay signature bonuses. 5, list of all those that have successfully paid signature bonuses. 6, amount paid by each company in the bid process and total realized. 7, amount paid as signature bonuses by each awarded and total realized. 9, list of companies that have paid part of by the winners, awardee in bracket. 12, number of fees not accepted or declined by those that have been awarded. 13, how much paid to the pension account from the process. 14, how much was expended in the process of the bidding. 15, consulting companies and their profile and how much have been paid to them. 16, any information considered useful that can aid this committee to discharge its responsibility to ensure transparency in the process along with standard best practices and to ensure accountability in the process along with excellent rules on managing national assets. We are still awaiting their report.
My take is that this is a very technical area and it affects the economy of Nigeria. In as much as we want to protect the interests of our individuals, the interests of the country should come. You can work alongside the two as a reference.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. There's need for me to also explain to the man in charge of standing committee. This is a case of injustice. 3 people are owing a marginal fee. They revoked it. That's what I say. It's a matter. It's going into details. It's going into details. We're not talking about the operations of marginal fees. 3 people, 3 friends, 3 companies are owing one marginal fee.
I'm not in that field. But my little knowledge is that there are times they award 3 fields to maybe one field to much more persons in that field. And it depends on your contribution as to your amount of money you are paid that will enable you now have out your own right. And in order to meet the amount of money that is required, at least my chairman is there, he can throw more light for us. He also handled this.
With all sense of responsibility, this is very common in the oil industry. And like the deputy leader rightly pointed out, there will be questions like this all over. But what is important, sir, Mr. Chairman? Thank you, sir. What is important is that this house must encourage production. We must encourage investment. Looking at it from that background, one will see that the recommendation of this committee is towards that direction, trying to encourage the investment, trying to encourage the people who are involved to come together in an amicable manner and then be able to go ahead to ensure that the production will continue. So, with due respect, sir, it will appear that if we still want to take a second look, we could. But speaking most sincerely, this is geared towards justice, is geared towards the promotion of production and encouragement of investment. Thank you, sir.
You see, 3 persons having one marginal field. How they got them aggregated to say, come and work in one field. I don't have the facts. You do not have the facts. As to what is their payment and if they have actually lived up to their expectation. This is 2004 activity that took place. We are now in 2021. That's why my own encouragement is that we need to look more into what really happened. I don't have any interest, I don't know anybody, but let's dispense justice with all sense of patriotism, which I commend what they have done. That's why I say, have a look again into the matter. That's my plea. The committee alongside and the public petition to look into this matter and report back to the committee of the whole, not even to the House. Thank you. Step down for further legislative actions. I don't even have a jerrycan station. Thank you. Last but not the least is it's another petition by, it's a report of petition by 8th Fund, sponsored by Standard Scholars Against Tertiary Education Trust Fund on the appeal to consider. Yes, sir.
Usually, State Fund usually send lecturers abroad for further studies and training. Between these 2 years, 2013, 2004, some of them were urging the second.
In that case, I will urge that we look into it, amend to put a timeline. Because if people are stranded, Nigerians are stranded, and we have money that is there, and they were rightly awarded. They are back. So the reimbursement. No, if they are back, you don't. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
even if they have already, those who are not paid, whilst others enjoyed the payment, should also enjoy their own. Is that not? And I think it's reasonable, sir.
Mr. Chairman, sometimes we have to even find out what happened to other people that they have not become.
Thank
you. On schedule. Well, recommendation carried. Thank you. Leader, move that will revert to plenary to report progress.
Mr. Chair,
Honorable Gordon, did you hear that?
Huh?
Okay.
Mr. Chair and my colleagues, I move that this committee of the whole reverts to plenary to report progress. I so move, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Kabir Idris. I hereby supporting the motion heavily moved by our leader. I so support, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. Well, that's have it. House is hereby to revert to plenary to report progress. Respected colleagues, the House in the Committee of the Whole considered the report on the bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Science and Technology Law, Taraba State, and for less matters approved clauses 1 to 32, the schedules, the long title, and the explanatory memoranda of the report. Respected colleagues, the House in the Committee of the Whole consumed Prevention Act number 10, 2011, as amended, and enact the Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Act 2021, make provisions for offenses relating to respected colleagues, the House and the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Commerce on a bill for an act to repeal the Export Prohibition Act, Cap E22 Laws Federation of Nigeria 2004, and enact the Maize Export Prohibition Bill 2021 and for related matters, and approve clauses 1 to 5 petition. On petition by Mr. Ika Florence Nene against the First City Monument Bank National Assembly branch on illegal, fraudulent, and unauthorized withdrawal of 1 million naira from her bank account, and approve recommendation 1 as amended of the report. Respected colleagues, the House and the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Public Petition on petition by Mr. Olagunji on behalf of Mr. Adeleke Teslim Oedran on the unjust, premature, and unfair retirement from the Department of Petroleum Resources, and approved recommendations 1 and 2 of the report. Colleagues, the House and the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Public Petition on the petition of Nne Emeka Ijofo and associates on behalf of the management of Seals Consultants against the Central Bank of Nigeria on the determination and information of dormant account balance within the Nigerian financial system, and deferred consideration of the report. The House and the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Public Petition on the petition of Igahachi Development Association against the Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Lokoja, Kogi State, on non-recognition of the bona fide host community and non-compliance with the corporate social responsibility of the Igachi committee by the institution, and deferred consideration of the report. Respected colleagues, the House and the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee of Public Petition on the petition by Honorio de Ojegbe, Managing Director, Eurafric Energy Limited, against the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and Director, Department of Petroleum Resources and Petroleum Energy Limited on Darwis Iceland marginal field and revocation of their field license in April 2020 for failure to bring the field into production and defer consideration for further legislative action. Respected colleagues, the House, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the report of the Committee on Public Petition on the petition by TED Fund, on the TED Fund sponsored stranded scholars against the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund, on appeal and to consider reimbursing the remaining 2023-2014 TED Fund sponsored scholars and approved the recommendation of the report. Yes, sir. Leader, move for the adoption of the report.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I'm Comrade Peter Patterson, representing Akukwado Federal Constituency. I move that this House do adopt the reports of the committee as presented by Mr. Speaker. I so move.
Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable colleagues, I'm Lawrence Shatima Ali, representing the Sarikere constituency. I rise to second the motion ably moved by the leader. I so second, sir.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Against say nay. Have it. Leader, move that we adjourn the House tomorrow 11 a.m.
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I move that this House do adjourn till 11 o'clock of Thursday, the 9th of December, 2021. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All right. Wait, now. I'm not the.
Thank you, Mr.
She said you should sit down.
Thank you, Mr.
Sit down.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable colleagues.
I don't want to have 125 kg. Allow the elder.
Sit down.
Oh.
I have the floor. Sit down.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Sitting on law, so the federal constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second that wonderful motion moved by the Deputy Speaker. Sorry.
Respected colleagues, those in favor of the motion for adjournment to tomorrow 11 a.m. say aye. Against say nay. That's have it. House is here adjourned to tomorrow 11 a.m.